All righty. This is Logic Over Everything, and I'm joined by my brothers. Logic, what's going on?
You're
Infinite, what it be, man? Good.
Good, baby. How y'all feeling, man? Yeah, been good, man.
I am heartbroken. Uh, I reflect. I got that. I texted y'all last night when I got the news. Like, I didn't know until the end of the day. Apparently, John Madden passed away in the morning, Tuesday morning. But I didn't get the blast until 6:00 at night. I reflexively then downloaded Madden, not only on my Xbox One, I downloaded it on my cell phone. And I don't know why I did that, but you can get Madden from the Apple Store, Madden 22, free to your cell phone.
Yeah, you get
and it's gross. It's gross.
Yeah.
It's gross. They don't have the licenses on the
Madden Mobile.
Yeah, it's the Madden Mobile, but they don't have any of the licenses on that thing. So I'm playing with like Speedy Claxton at my defensive end. Like they just giving names that don't even exist in football. I don't know whose names they using. Probably EA Sports. I'm surprised I didn't see Ed Boon Toasty come out Detroit. Like I don't know. I don't know why I did it, but I ended up playing it. I got lost in it just for the nostalgia feel, but it's not the same. So of course, we all have emotions about John Madden. I wouldn't know football. I wouldn't know what a defense or what kind of sets the defensive set up in, and 4-3s and 3-4s. All that would be lost to me if I didn't have a John Madden video game. So I just wanted to take a second and kind of like tell you your own unique story, your own perspective of what John Madden meant to you in the realm of your football knowledge. And Logic, I'll begin with you, brother. Like, is there anything you could tell me?
To be perfectly honest, John Madden's death had little to no effect on me whatsoever. I think he was a great dude. I think he was a great commentator. I think he was a great ambassador of the Shield. I can remember getting beat by all my cousins in New Jersey in like the old Maddens, like with the little boxes and stuff. And you would just like try to get one of your own games and then try to practice. So, next time you have the family, like you could win some games and stuff like that. I could definitely say I know more about Madden as the video game promotion dude than, from his legendary, obviously, football cachet and history, but people die. So.
Dang. Okay. All right. I can see it from that realm. But Infinite, having personal knowledge of your knowledge of that game and the frustration that you put me through as a junior high school student trying to beat you in that game. I know, of course, we know Madden. We didn't know Madden as a coach. We knew Madden as like, the announcer. Him and Pat Summerall were basically royalty to us. If Madden was covering your game, the game that you was watching, that's the one. Even if it was a bullshit game, most times, even if it wasn't my team, I don't know how y'all feel, but even if it wasn't my team, if John Madden and Pat Summerall covering, I'm watching that one. I didn't like any other announcers. I don't remember liking anything else in the 90s. But yeah, Infinite, I'll bow to you. Do you have any specific memories? Anything you want to share?
Yeah. So I say, obviously condolences to Madden and his family. Real quick, like you saying, it was always a treat to hear Madden on the TV. Like you just said, it didn't even have to be my team. Of course, he was always there for the Green Bay versus Cowboys. So even with that, even though I didn't like them two teams, in the 90s, early 2000s, I was still, tune in and watch that joint. Right? You just had to be there for, Sunday, 4:15 kickoff for, Madden and San Francisco. It was an event, and especially for Super Bowl time, you'd be checking your TV schedule to see which network was going to have Super Bowl that year. Because if it was on Fox, then it was going to be Madden and Pat. But you roll your eyes if it was on like CBS. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted to hear fucking Dan Dierdorf and Dan Marino.
fucking Boomer Esiason.
Yeah, like it was just a downgrade. No diss to them dudes, but it was a downgrade for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you wanted that joint to be on Fox. You couldn't wait till the Pro Bowl. Came on. Madden cruising. Getting over there to Hawaii. All that stuff. So you would look forward to those things. In the 90s. Of course, the media was much different back then. So all we had was, the TV, what I'm saying? It wasn't no YouTube or nothing like that. So we was fully tuned in at that time. They're legendary. But on a personal level, just like you said, just like Logic said, you really, after a while, and I'm sure it's probably the first year whenever anybody in our age range played the game, I would say most people had their introduction in Madden, maybe Madden 92, Madden 93. It became a thing yearly where you needed to buy the game so you'd be ready to play, those dudes in your neighborhood, like your cousins, your brothers, whoever. Like, it was real competition. So what made me learn how to play the game real good, I'll give a quick story. There was this dude in my neighborhood named Oliver, and he was a couple years. I think I was either I was in like 6th grade or just maybe got to middle school. But he was already like a sophomore or something in high school or whatever, and he played football for high school career. And at that time, he was like the best dude I had ever played. And this gonna make Logic laugh. So y'all, Logic, you remember the episode on The Simpsons where Homer kept getting beat up in that boxing game by Bart? Homer could never beat him. So it was the same thing for me, right? So I could never beat this dude. So one day I was at his house playing that joint. I think he had like the Buffalo Bills. I had the watch the football team or whatever. And man, I had finally had a competitive game with him. And game, I think I even took the lead like in the 4th quarter. But I think either he came back and won, or I had the ball last, but I couldn't score. I sat right in that joint in that basement and end up breaking down crying. That's how passionate I was. Like, even as a young kid, like that's how devoted to the game I was. Like I even broke down because I was so close to beating them. But that day, after that, that's what made me like really go study the game and learn how to play that joint. And of course, all of our friends will tell you, how good I was in that joint over the years or whatever. But Madden was a real thing to a lot of us as kids. Growing up, like Joe said, we didn't know him as a coach, but him as being a commentator and putting his name on the greatest, if not the greatest game of all time, but at least the greatest sports game of all time. Like, he had a real impact, for a lot of us over the last 30 years.
Absolutely.
Definitely want to be missed.
And more importantly, it was that knowledge that he put into that game that gave me more appreciation for the game. Because you grow up in a household in Maryland, close to DC, and the reason why you're a Cowboy fan is never because you visited Texas Stadium or grew up around anything. It just became because, hey, my dad always rooted hard for the Cowboys. You either fall in line or get left. But I grew up with Cowboy Love, right? But more importantly, what John did was he just made it super simple and super fun for me. So he made it simple in his telecast, in his style, because you know what? And I think that's why it hits me so hard, because, damn it, I love a big man. And John Madden, John Madden, he loved the big guys. You know what I'm saying? Like John Madden was always talking about big bag of donuts, or or for me, the Cowboys offensive line. He never spent too much time on Troy Aikman. There's one thing in history that I remember about Troy Aikman trying to grow a beard at 28 years old. Troy Aikman was trying to grow a beard, and John Madden took time to draw on the screen how little Troy Aikman's beard was growing in. And that's the most time he's ever spent on anybody else other than Nate Newton, Mark Stepnoski. Like he would spend big time explaining those guys' roles, and he was the first person to do that. Like he would explain the offensive linemen and their function, and that's when you talk about.
You always shut out.
Right.
Yeah, you always shut out the support players. Like you always talk. Just like somebody said, I saw somebody talk about last night. Like nobody in the world would know who the heck Moose Johnson was.
Right.
I guess he always paid attention to the tight ends, fullbacks, like all the intricate players that maybe they weren't as popular as best players on their respective team, but he will always give a nod to those hardworking guys on that telecast. So.
There was nobody like him, and there won't be anybody. And I'm not shading any announcer now, because there's good color guys now. I can never think of his name, but Collinsworth is one of the best. Collinsworth.
I used to hate him. I used to hate him a lot, but he's actually gotten better as time has gone on. Yeah, he's not as annoying. Right. He just used to be annoying, but now it's kind of like I hear what you're trying to say.
Right. And he has one of the more memorable voices. Al Michaels is another memorable voice, but he was the Pat Summerall of it. He wasn't really the the color guy. Right. But he has one of the more memorable voices. And Joe Buck, for all intents and purposes, I'm okay with Joe. The people I don't like: Tony Romo, Troy Aikman. Ironic, but
that's wild. I like Tony. I don't like Joe Buck. I never liked Joe Buck.
You don't like Joe Buck? His voice does something for me.
I don't like it. I like how good not Troy Aikman, how good Tony Romo is at processing the information.
Oh yeah.
Because I think it really puts his whole career in a different limelight. When you hear him talk about football, you realize that the issue with him and his career wasn't what he knew.
No, it's what he threw. It's what he threw.
But it wasn't the knowledge. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he wasn't just out there making this shit up. Like, he knew what was going on immediately.
Right.
And I just never really thought about that in regards to him. I never really thought about his QB analytical skills. You know what I'm saying? And so hearing him talk about it, it's like, oh, yeah, I got that. And then when you hear like Troy Aikman talk, you realize that Troy Aikman didn't have none of that. Like Troy Aikman didn't have none of that. Like he knew the right things to say, but he didn't have none of that. He just had better receivers, a better offensive line, better running back.
Yeah, and he was kind of like
he had everything else.
He was the icing on that cake. When he talks about
football, it's not like he's isolating things and circling. Tony be out there circling stuff.
and that's what I appreciated about Madden, circling and making it real. And
he was the first one to use that damn teleprompter. Like he was the first one out there to really pick up that pen and draw circles and clouds and statues like right on the field.
Like he had his own clipboard.
True.
Right. Exactly. He bought his clipboard. There you go. He bought his clipboard from off the field.
Put it on TV. And you saw a real coach's clipboard. And he was like, oh, I get it. I get it.
In real time.
Yeah, real time. Before I leave, I would be remiss to tie in the reason why I have so much hatred for Infinite in that realm to Madden, because as the Madden iterations would go over the years, we would get something called motion capture graphics. And that first PlayStation, that jump from Super Nintendo to PlayStation, they had the motion capture technology, meaning you would go to Texas Stadium and you would see we're live from Texas Stadium. And, you'd have that visual of coming over the dome with the hole in the roof. And then you'd have Pat and John sitting next to each other every game in your living room, right? Like you have those classic voices, and then you'd see Madden and you'd see Pat. And I wanted so good to be great at that game, because I was going to go over to Infinite's house and Infinite was going to come over to my house and we were going to play this game. Now, at the time, I got my little brother who was half interested in Madden. Which I like, but the same plays would work on him. I got enamored with the play action pass. And, I just used to think, that's going to trick the defense every time. Then I get over to Infinite's house and I try to play the game with him. Now, this man was pre-snapping all kinds of directions to his his defense is shifting. He's doing all kinds of pre-snap. I don't know none of that shit. I didn't even know you could do that on Madden, but it began to where these audibles and I knew about audibles. Like I could audible out of a play and I had one of three to play. Like I knew all that, but then he got to these pre-snap things and, changing people's routes and on the offense and then changing the
route.
Don't please. All right. See, that was traumatic for me, but in essence, just like Madden showed me, a 3-4, a 4-3, a dime is what you pick when somebody has four receivers. I didn't know any of that unless it's in terms of that video game. Like I wouldn't know what I'm looking at on Sunday if it wasn't for John. I got my first lesson in humility in defeat because a lot of times I ate it. Like I wasn't winning. You can't, you know what I'm saying? You can't win doing a play action every time on offense. I got sacked, every single time before I even threw the ball. And if I did throw the ball, I got picked off. But that's all I knew. I didn't know crossing routes. I didn't know none of that. So all that to say, yes, John Madden gave me my love, my knowledge of football, and my knowledge of football increased my love of football. But Infinite, and I almost used your government name because that's how much I hate this memory. Infinite gave me my first bit of humility and just losing at something because I could play my little brother all day and I bust him in the head but I never lost until I met Mr. Infinite and he was changing them damn it was gross and it got worse from there.
I mean, you gotta remember, you gotta remember, we had a lot of competition. We had a group of guys that it was like 6 or 7 of us that were really passionate about that game through our middle school, high school years. So after I got past that dude that beat me, way back in Madden 92. So by the time I get to Madden 98, 99, I'm making sure don't even call me for the first 2 weeks. Like I'm in the booth, I'm in the cage studying, getting ready for you, the Gary's, the Renze's, all that.
Oh
so,
boy!
He said, "Oh boy."
we took that shit serious, man. Like it was blood, blood, sweat, and tears, But another thing I want to talk about real quick before change out. The other thing we got to or at least I acknowledge Madden for is my premise that I've had us doing this podcast since earlier this year and us talking on the phone over the last year and a half about jumping off the cliff and willing to die put your name amongst the stars. Like we know that Madden only coached for 9 years, but he was the most winning percentage wise the winningest coach in NFL history. And I think Joe was telling me yesterday, I guess he had some type of maybe health problem that made him retire early from the game. But he had to figure out what he was going to do after that. And we could have he could have gone on to have a 20-30 year coaching career. We just known him as a great coach, but he knew he needed to do something bigger for himself, and was kind of reluctant to kind of jumping into the commentary scene, of sports, in the football realm. But he was even more reluctant to jump into that video game industry. He literally put his name on the line, on the dotted line, and on the game to make it, for him to stand up. Because, like I said, if you weren't being like 50 years of age or older, you probably wouldn't really be talking about Madden like that. But because him jumping into other areas, and it only made his name grow bigger. You know what I'm saying? Like now he's forever, solidified now, like in a pantheon, like because I realized that he didn't go to the Hall of, they didn't induct him into the Hall of Fame until 2008.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he went in with Aikman. He went in with Aikman. Mm-hmm.
Yep. He went in with Aikman. Yeah, so like if he wasn't a great commentator, or had put his name on, this video game, would they have, put him in there? I mean, look how long it took for him to get into the Hall of Fame.
Because I think he ended coaching in like '79. So, yeah,
like early. I mean, early. He was out of there early. He had been coaching since the '60s.
Right.
So like I said, there would have been a small set of people that really would have known him. But to go global, he had to jump off the cliff. Like he had to. He had to do something bigger as a man.
I think you get a generation of people in every walk of his. Like you get a generation in the '60s and '70s. You get a generation in the '80s and '90s, and then you get that 2000 space where they only know him for the video game. But what one person, other than like Michael Jackson off the top of my head, can affect that many generations? Yeah, I don't know who can affect three generations of people.
Michael Jordan,
especially him as a white man.
And that's crazy because Jordan affects people off name alone because they never really seen him play in that third generation. In the third generation, that Michael Jordan, that he affects them in a way that he's not LeBron. Like, look, he's better than his sneakers, right? But they never seen him actually do anything.
Right. And that's the same with Madden in them games. It's a generation of kids that play Madden every year come out. Right. And they don't know what Madden did.
They have no idea.
They have no idea like who he actually was or what he stood for. But the product with his name on it has survived all of that. And that's pretty dope. That's pretty dope.
And we can get into that, Infinite. We can get into which were failures in these past 20 plus years of Maddens. I think we're at like what, the 28th year. I don't know. I remember Madden 25. We might be close to 30 now.
Right. So I think he stepped away. I think maybe like around the last year he stepped away. I think maybe like 99, 2000, like maybe like 02. It was one of the years like he completely stepped away of development of the game. You know what I'm saying? And, but obviously they kept his name safe, but he literally stepped away because they got footage of him being in the board meetings and watch him implementing things that needed to be added to the game each year. But he stepped away, like I said, maybe late '90s, early 2000s. Physically stepped away from it. But yeah, man, you just got a whole generation of kids, forever, that will see his name and the thing kids like to do is to see what the player rating. Madden ratings is a real thing out here. You know what I'm saying? Like people arguing about the NFL players are tweeting like, "Dang, how Madden making an 81? That should be an 88." All that stuff like that. And those are real things.
And being on that All Madden team hit different too. Like that was a big
All
thing
Madden,
too.
yeah.
All Madden team.
They more worried about the All Madden team compared to
injury.
Right.
The Madden curse. Everybody wanted to be on the cover, and then once you got the cover,
Madden curse. Exactly. That's another joint. Exactly.
Oh man. But big ups to him.
He made an impact.
He did. You
gotta respect the impact.
Right. In a world of white saviors, that's one I'll tip my hat to. I don't like to do that. I don't like to do that.
Right. That's right.
But yeah, he one of the biggest stories I heard, and I'll end with this, like that says something about John Madden the person. He was in a game against the Patriots, a playoff game, and one of their star wide receivers had just got one of the biggest contracts a black wide receiver had ever gotten. Like it was on the table. He hadn't signed it yet. They wanted him to play this game against the Raiders. One of their big hitters hit this wide receiver just in the prime of his career, hit him so bad that he landed in a way right on his neck. After the game, Madden was so distraught about it. He wanted to follow the player to the hotel and to the hospital. And I can't remember the names involved here. You got to forgive me, but he followed him to the hospital and found out that he was the only person there. And that the doctors came back to Madden like he was the coach. And he's like, no, this was a national game. This is nationally televised. Where is New England? Where's the coaching staff? Where is everybody? And he's like, this guy is in real trouble. It turned out he had fractured his vertebrae. So he's a quadriplegic at this point. And Madden is sitting at his bedside, and he called the commissioner at the time, got the Patriots at the airport because everybody was in the airport ready to go back because they had lost the game. Madden, the winning coach, was there with this injured player who had lost his ability to walk. And I'm like, shit, I didn't know about this story because, like I said, we missed this part of Madden, the coach, right? But when I hear that, and I'm hearing that it's a black player, and you say what you want, they had us on the field, but they wasn't for us. They have us on the field now; they're not for us. He said, I need the head coach to come back to the. You know what they sent? They sent the team business partner. They sent a team business partner to sit with him.
Wow.
They didn't even send anybody that deals with this guy on a day-to-day. They sent the business associate, told him go back. But Madden checked in with him every day and was like really, wanted to pay for his medical expenses. Like that kind of shit,
Yeah.
That makes you feel differently about just being a human being, right? And
It's ambassador for the brand.
That's crazy. That's
ambassador
crazy.
For the brand. That's the dude that you wanted to, represent the shield. The guy that represents what football is supposed to be. And they keep telling you it is. That's stuff like that.
Right. That goes back to like when somebody's injured on the field and somebody's laid out, the other team kneeling in silence next to them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's the kind of thing early that didn't exist back then. It didn't exist. They didn't care. They didn't give a fuck, especially if you're black. But yeah, I think that said the most to me about what John Madden was about. And yeah, you could genuinely hear him talk about, like I said, the big man, which, like I said, Sean, when they came to us at Largo and they wanted us to be offensive linemen, that's all they said. Y'all too big not to be playing football. We didn't, but you don't want to be no damn offensive lineman. I don't want to play no offensive line.
At least not the center. Yeah, at least not the center. That's all I heard. That's all I heard. Somebody, you play center now, bro.
Right. I don't want to do that. Because in our eyes, before that time, like you're looking at football and you want to be something glamorous. You want to be. Why can't I be a running back? Like I want to get some shine. Even if you put me
on the defensive line, right. I already even heard you. I already said, you can make me a decent win. I could have been lying, the Leon let out this joint.
Right. Right. But the last person to get shine was your offensive line. You never, you never. Yeah.
They let him tackle now, but at least he's the center.
You never knew him. You never knew him, and he gave us a face. So big ups to Mr. Madden.